Hello, 3rd and 4th grade. Today we're going to do a project using these Mardi Gras beads that many of you may have seen in the classroom. I had them all divided up by colors. Mrs. Glasscock gave these to us. It gave us several different colors and lots of each. So I thought it would be fun for you guys to do a cross project with them. So in your kit, what you're going to need is in your kit that came home this week is a piece of cardboard that is about 5 by 7, I think. No, 5 by 8. And you need your watercolors, and you need a pencil, and you need beads, and you can use either your school glue, this here, or you can use a hot melt glue gun if you have one handy. Either one will work just fine. The 5th and 6th grade did a sunflower project, and most of them used the school glue here, and if you let it dry, maybe overnight after you're finished with the project, then everything is very stable. Okay, the first thing to do is we're going to draw our cross. Oh, you need a ruler also. This kind of ruler is called a pica pole. It's got some printer's measurements on it that I used to use when I was in the printing business. But it also has inches. So find you a ruler of some kind. If you need to pause the video while you go and get one, because there's not one in your art box. Okay, to start with, we're going to measure down from the top. I'm going to start here. Down from the top, and you'll find that it's 8 inches to the bottom. For just your training purposes, let's plot the center of this piece of cardboard. So half of 8 would be 4. So we'll put a dot here. And then we're going to measure going this way. And this way it is 5 inches, and half of 5 is 2.5. So where these two lines intersect is where center is. Now that's not exactly relative to what we're doing here, because we're going to be measuring from the top to start our cross. But I want you to have that technique. Okay, we do need to find the center going up and down, so let's find that again. Okay, half of 5 is 2.5. So we'll put a little reference dot there. Let's do the same thing down here. 2.5. That way we can bisect our cardboard here, and very, very lightly, we'll be erasing it later. This is just a reference line here. Very lightly draw a line down through the center, just like that. I didn't exactly go through my center point, but that's fine. It's close enough. Now measuring down from the top, we have just a little bit over an inch. I had to construct this project based on the size of the beads to make sure everything was going to fit in. And I really think that I gave all of you all the same size beads, especially the blue ones. That's more critical that you have all the same size. Some of you have one long string and some of you have several short strings, but it'll all work. I gave each of you more of the blue and the gold than you actually need, so we should have some flexibility there. Okay, back to our paper here. To draw the cross, we're going to come down just a little over an inch. Let's measure that again. We're fudging just a little bit because of the sides of the beads. Looks like it's about 1 1/8 inches. So come down about 1 inch. This would be 1.5 inches. This would be 1.25 inches, and then this would be 1.125 inches. Just put a little reference line there. And then we can draw. You can just eyeball it to get it straight with the edge of your paper up there. Just eyeball a little line, because that's going to be the top of our cross. Okay, then measuring the width of the cross, it is the same distance wide as it is from the top, so that's just a little over 1 inch. It's not horribly critical, but you need to get it as close as you can. So I'm going to put my ruler here just a little past half, mark a mark here, and then a mark on inch. Now anytime, remember these videos are designed so that you can pause them at any time that you need to. Okay, now we need to go down the sides, and we can pretty much eyeball that. Measuring from the end, we got right at 2 inches. That's handy. So measuring from the edge over here, let's go ahead and put a mark. Remember, the thickness of your pencil lead is important. Right at 2 inches, and then real close to 2 inches on this other side. Ta-da! Now we're going to draw a vertical line from this point here all the way to the end of the paper, because looking at our sample here, the cross goes all the way to the end. So we're starting here. We're going to lay our ruler down and draw a vertical line. And I'm going to do it this way so that I can make sure that my ruler is parallel to the center line that we drew. Okay, that looks pretty good. Here we go, down. That is one side of the cross. Then the other side is right there. Okay, that should, it looks like I'm a little off. Let me see if I can get 3 beads in that space. I need to make it just a little bit bigger. If you want to get your beads out and lay them out, your blue ones, just kind of lace them out here, because what we're trying to do is get it about 3 beads across. Now when you put these down, you can crunch them together a little bit if you need to make things fit. I'm going to make mine just a little bit wider. Okay, like that. And I'm going to erase that line there so I don't get confused. Okay, that should do it. We're about 3 beads across. That's perfect. Now, to make the crossbar here, let's measure down, or actually, you know what's easier? Let's measure up from, or down from the top of the cross, and that's about 1.25 inches. Remember, none of this is really precise, but you need to get a ballpark. Okay, this would be 1.5 inches. This would be 1.25 inches. Let's see, measure that again. Yep, about 1.25 inches. So I put a line here. Same thing over here, about 1.25 inches. And this will go all the way across from one side to the other. I keep moving it so you can't see it. It's going to be all the way across here. There's the top of our cross, and then just a little over 1 inch down. This is the last little bit of drawing we've got to do on the cross. A little over 1 inch. Make sure your ruler is parallel to the line you just drew. You don't want your cross looking like that. And put that on there. Okay, the cross is pretty much done. Excuse me. Now we're going to make our little sun behind it. Or maybe that's a hill. I'm not sure. I just thought it was cool with the gold. Okay, this is right at 2 inches from the bottom of this up to here, and that's about 5 beads. So let's go ahead and make a mark that's about 2 inches. Remember to take into account the thickness of your lead. Same thing over here, about 2 inches. Now we're just going to kind of eyeball this. We're going to have an arch that goes from this corner up through this intersection here, through this intersection here, and then down. But we don't want straight lines. We want it to be an arch. So you may have to sketch it. So go ahead and make that just not too round. See, I need to refine that. That's one thing about sketching. Remember, you do it kind of light. Go back and forth several times, and then you can hone it in on exactly the shape that you want. I think that's going to work just fine. Let's do that other side here. Down to here, down to the corner. Oh, that one was easier to do for some reason. Okay, we are finished drawing and we're ready to paint. For the background, we're going to paint a light blue here and a gold here, and then a dark blue where the cross is, because you can see between the beads. So that just kind of helps make the color of the beads pop. Okay, to do our sky back here, we didn't pre-wet our watercolors, which we do in a lot of lessons to get them really soft. They're not pre-wet because I want the color here to be nice and light. So go ahead and get your watercolor brush and put a little bit of water in your blue. Okay, and we're just going to paint right over the cross, but we've got to paint around the sun down here. So keep your strokes horizontal and go right off the edge of your paper. If you're on a table or something, it'll wash right off. Get you some more water and leave some white because that kind of looks like clouds back in the background. And you don't want it too dark because we want to have a nice contrast between the cross and the sky. And I don't think your paper's going to warp too much. Mine didn't. My sample didn't warp at all. So here we go down the side. It's hard to keep your strokes horizontal going down the side. And make sure you don't have any real harsh edges. You can kind of let it fade as you go down the side, because if you look at the sky, look at the horizon, as it gets closer to the ground, it tends to get a little bit lighter because our atmosphere is thicker there. Just one of the wondrous ways that God made our beautiful earth. Okay, now we need to go just down the cross here with our first coat. You can go ahead and make vertical strokes here. It won't matter because we're going to put another coat on that. I'm going to kind of blend mine together a little bit so it doesn't have a harsh line right up to the edge. And then we need to let this dry. If you have a hair dryer, it's already looking like it's not shiny. If it's not shiny, that's going to be plenty dry enough. If you have a hair dryer handy, grab it. If not, you can pause the video and let it dry naturally, and I'll see you back here in just a few minutes. Okay, we're all nice and dry. A little bit of moisture up here, but that's not going to make any difference. Now we're going to paint the sun, which is behind the cross. Get your brush washed out really well, because if you got blue in your brush and you put it in your yellow, you're going to have green, and we don't want a green sun. Okay, so like we did before, just get some paint and put it on there. We didn't pre-moisten. We want this to be a little bit darker, so we will do 2 coats. We'll glaze a second coat of watercolor on the sun. Nothing real precise here. Don't slop it onto your cross, but just kind of pile it on there and then go over your pencil lines. Kind of camouflage those a little bit. Can do the other side over here. Be careful not to drip your yellow into your sky. We don't want any sunspots flying away from our sun. A little bit more. My first side over here, my right side, is already starting to dry, so goodness, this paper is very absorbent. So I think I can go ahead and get a little bit thicker amount of paint on my brush and go ahead and put it very carefully so you don't wipe off your first layer. Put a second layer here. So, second layer over here. I'm using a lot thicker. The yellow has soaked a little bit so that I can get more intense color. There we go. That's going to do it just dandy. Okay, finished with that. I'm going to wash my brush again, and then we're going to put a couple of coats on the brush, on the cross here. Washing my brush really well. I'm going to hit the sun down here with just a little bit of hair dryer because I don't want my blue bleeding into my yellow. This will just take a second. You can pause the video if you wish, or you can grab your hair dryer. Well, that was fast. Okay, we're ready now to do our second and third layers on the blue. So the blue's gotten a little bit soaked up now, so it's going to be a little bit more intense. Remember, when you're coming out of your watercolors, remember to kind of touch the side here so you don't drip big blops where you don't want them. I'm going to go ahead and I forgot to erase that line up there. Usually watercolor is pretty forgiving. So after this dries, before we put the glue down, we might be able to erase those lines. Well, that's fine. That just kind of gives me the opportunity to teach you something else. So go ahead and paint in your cross pretty neatly. Clear out to the edge of your paper, which makes it a little bit easier than trying to go to the edge. Lots of blue. We're going to put a couple of coats on here. Actually, this is going down pretty dark because my blue got moistened up while we were working on the yellow. Remember to touch the side of your paint divot. I need to get a little bit more water. Same with when you go get water out of your water vessel. You want to touch the side. Remember, we don't ever tap our brush on the side of our water container, because boy, that could make a splattery mess. Okay, got that part of it down. A little bit more water, some paint, and let's go on down through the middle here. I like my sky here. I left just enough white that it kind of looks like little white clouds off in the distance. Down the side here. When we get to the yellow, you want to go really slowly so we don't overlap. Because once again, you know enough color theory to know that if we get yellow and blue mixed together, we're going to get green. And that's a cool deal, but not for this project. I'll turn it this way. If you're right-handed, it's always good to kind of paint away from you. If you're left-handed, you'll want to turn it, maybe turn your cross upside down. And you might be able to get at these edges a little easier so you can be nice and precise. Alrighty, you know, I believe that is blue enough. If you want to put a third coat on your cross, go ahead and pause the video and let it dry and put a third coat on it, and then you can rejoin us in a few minutes when we start putting the beads on. Okay, all of my paint is dry now, and I'm going to erase these little pencil markings where I forgot to erase it before we painted it. And you've got to be very, very gentle when you do that. So take just a plain old pencil eraser and just very gently, if you're in the classroom, I'd touch your finger and just show you what a feather touch is, because if you erase too hard, you'll lift that blue paint right out. And keep your erasing horizontal, so if you do wind up lifting a little bit of that white out, it'll still blend in with the sky. Looks like that's going to be pretty successful. Get most of that out. You might even go a little bit further than your line just to make the color even. Yeah, that worked just dandy. Next time I'll try not to forget to do that. Okay. Any of the lines that you see like down here, so that's going to be pretty much covered up by beads, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay, we're ready to install our beads now. The way that I put these on here was I have 3 long strings here and then 6 short ones going this way. Now, depending upon what the luck of the draw was for you, you may have several short pieces or you may have long pieces. If you have short pieces, you just lay them on there, and then I'm going to dump these out here, and then just get another one. It's easier for me to show you here. Lay them on and glue them down, and then just get another one. Go as far as you need to go, and then take your scissors and cut it off. I forgot to tell you, you'll need a pair of scissors. Where's my scissors? There they are. So run and get you a pair of scissors, or if you have your art box, you can just reach in and get them. Okay, the easiest way to glue these dudes down, and I'm going to do it in 2 different ways. I'm going to do it with my school glue, and then we'll do some with the hot melt glue. Now, 3rd and 4th grade, I have trained you guys on how to use hot melt glue guns. So if you remember all the different things that I taught you, you should be very safe. Let's see if I can get my school glue to use my... Is it gonna go? Come on, it's gonna go. Of course not. Maybe this one here will run better. I may have to pause the video and find me a glue that's gonna work. Some of this glue's been sitting here for a while. Aha, got one. Alrighty. I'm gonna lay some glue here. Remember, this glue dries pretty clear. Let's don't do the whole string. Let's just do about as much as what I have here. So I'll go down to, about there and stop. Because if I get too much on here, I could bump it and smear it with my fingers. You just lay your beads right on top of it, just like that. You'll need to push them around a little bit to encourage them to be in pretty much a straight line. And pretty close to the edge of your cross. And we've got 3 beads across up here, so you could measure that. I believe I'm going to go right up to the edge. And I also think that I'm going to get a piece of tape and tape this dude down, because it's really wanting to twirl around on me. So if you have some tape, you can tape it to your table. Just remember to curl your tape around backwards. You don't want to tape it over the top, because then when you pull it off, it might disturb your beautiful watercolor that you've done. Okay, right to the edge. It may not, the beads may not lay perfectly straight, but that's okay. If you remember the cross that Jesus died on to save us from our sins, that was a pretty rough cross. The wood was rough, the splinters in it, I'm sure, jabbed into his hands. Okay, I'm going to do the rest of this part. Oh, wrong glue. Rest of this part here. Okay, come on, glue. I feel your pain. We've had times in the classroom when your glue didn't work right. We had to go around and have a glue party. All right, I've got 3. Yeah, probably 3 to finish this row up. Make sure that your spacing, you can use your pencil or your scissors to push these things around. The spacing between the beads is pretty equal, so when you put this last batch down, get it as equal as you can. Get it about where you want it and snip it off. Hold it down, just snip it with your scissors, and then straighten it the way it needs to be. We got 1 row is finished. Now let's do the second row. I'm going to get a nice long one here. You may have several short ones. If you have short ones like that, they're just as easy to put on. All you got to do is just lay them up. Okay, where's my glue? I'm laying my glue down so that, and keeping it closed so I'm not using it, so the glue kind of lays in the bottle, and then when I pick it up, it's easier to use. So row number 2, right smack dab down through the middle here. There we go. Lay my beads on here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a slightly different color of blue between these 2 strings. I think that's awesome. Okay, see where it needs to go. I'm going to nip it off. Chew it to death here. See, it's going pretty easy now. The rest of the project is really pretty easy. You need to just make sure you get your beads on nice and straight. Another row of glue here. And I think I'm going to go back to my lighter color. Oh, I don't have a lighter color. Roll those puppies right next to where they need to be. And it looks like I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads to finish that up. So I'm just going to trim it like that. Now, if you got 1 or 2 beads at the end of a string, don't let them run away from you. You may need them later. And I got, wait, 1 too many, didn't I? That should have been 4. So I'm going to cut that dude off. Put him right there. And remember, this glue dries clear. So if you get some on your beads like I just did, it's not really going to matter. It'll pretty much disappear by the time it dries. You might want to kind of manipulate this a little bit so that your end is pretty even. It may cause a spacing differential up here, but that really doesn't matter. Okay, got that going. Now looking across the top, we got 4 beads, 4 rows of 4. Okay, or 6 rows of 4. 6 times 4 is, using our math here, rotate my cross here and push my tape back down. So I need 4 in each. So I think I'll cut those ahead of time because I know exactly how many I'm going to need. So we got 4, and then we got 4 here. So I need 1 more of those rows of 4 for this side. Four beads. Okay, now I need for my other side. I got 4 here, and 4 here, and 4 here. Or if you wind up with just pieces, I think I'll do that so I can show you how I piece that together. Okay, row 1. Be careful not to bump the rows that you've already done. If you'd feel more comfortable letting this part of it dry for a while and then come back later, that would be just fine. Lay my bead of glue here. And now my bead of beads. Get right close to the edge of the cross that you painted. And the next row here in the middle. And later on after this dries, if you have a few beads that have come loose, you can just stick some glue under them and they'll reattach themselves. And the last row here. Oh, this is starting to look so cool. That is just perfect. Now I'm going to carefully rotate my cross around this way so I can get at these others without bumping what I've already got done. Okay, here are 4. My bead of glue for my bead of beads. I love that. Put these guys down there. Get them as straight as I can. Another row of 4. And that's a little bit thin. I think I'll beef that up. Beef up my bead of glue. Remember, that looks kind of sloppy, but it's going to dry pretty clear. That's got 5 on it. I didn't count very well. So I'll just snip that doodad off and slide them together so they're, you know, pretty straight. If it's a little bit crooked, that's no big deal. So I've got 3 here. So 3 plus 2 is 5, which was a mistake I made a minute ago. So I need 4. Since I've got one single bead, I'm going to put it in first so that it's a little bit protected up here, because if it was out here on the end and it got bumped, it might fall off. So I'll put this guy in. Make sure that his string is sticking forward and back so he matches up with the other beads. That one done. And this one here. Ta-da! My cross is now finished. Okay, and once again, you might want to let this set and dry, so that we're going to do the sun next. And it's okay if you don't want to wait, because if you bump it and you knock it out of whack, you can just push it back. And if it doesn't have enough glue, just stick some glue down there. This project's pretty forgiving. Okay, we're going to do our sun. Let's count our beads. I had you measure that up and then gave you all the same size beads so that it'll match pretty closely. So in this first row, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beads. So get your gold and count off 7 beads. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Snip that off. Uh-oh, I got beads trying to escape. Get up there. And right along on top of our pencil line, we're going to put this first row here. Right along the edge of our sun. Right on the corona. Just kind of plop them down there and then push them into place with your finger. You want to come right down to the corner here. And then cover up your pencil line with it. Okay, the next row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 4 and 2 is 6. Cut that off. Put some glue down here. Lay that in there, push it into place. You want to go ahead and push it up so it touches the beads above. And make your, if you have a space, where's my pencil? If you have a space between the edge of your paper and the first bead, you can just kind of ooze this around and kind of make that equidistant. The space here about the same as the space there, and it'll look just dandy. Okay, row 3 has 4 beads in it. An advantage to using this school glue is if you wind up having to push your beads around a little bit, to get, like I'm pulling this one toward here just a bit to make it even, that's actually easier than a hot melt glue gun, because once a hot melt glue cools, that's it. You're locked into whatever you've done. The next row has 3. Trying to keep an arch here. Stay away from straight lines. Oh yeah, we got it. Pushing that around so we got equal space. This one's a little bit short, but that'll be fine. And then the last row has just 2 in it. Put your glue down. Lay these babies in there, and the right side is done. And I'm going to fiddle with it. Like I said, using a school glue might be a better deal. There we go. That's pretty evenly evenly covered. Perfect. So now I'm going to do the second side. Remember the second side had 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beads. So we'll count off 7 here. Put my row of glue. We're almost finished with this, you guys. You want to, if you use school glue, especially, you're going to want to let it set overnight before you move it, because this glue it dries to the touch in just an hour or so, but it takes overnight for it to cure out so it can really bond with your beads. Okay, row 2, I forgot to count. I get to talking, I forgot to count. 1, 2, 3, got 6 on that row 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's 6. Yes. Okay, put my glue down. Yeah, when you finish with this project, you can. I'll show you how to put a coat tab on the back of it, so that you can hang it up. Makes it. They make pretty neat hanger doodles. Okay, I need 4. I've got 5 in this little extra piece. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. That's right. So cut one of these off. Glue it down. Oh, see, I slopped some glue up there on my bead. That's no big deal. You could wind up causing a real issue if you try and wipe that off. Maybe take your pencil and thin it out some. It's going to dry clear, so it's not going to show that much. Okay, I've got 2 more rows to go. I've got 3, and then 2. 3 here. And then 2 for the last one, and we're finished with the beads. Okay, I'm going to let this set for just a minute while I get a Coke opener tab, and I'll show you how to put that on the back. Okay, I have located my opener tabs. I've got scads of these things here at home and in the classroom. I'm going to set this fresh one I just did aside, and we'll put a hanger on the back of this one that's all nice and dry. Okay, you'll want to take your ruler. We got to get it in the center because we don't want our cross to be hanging up crooked. So remember, it's 5 inches wide, so we're going to find 2.5 and mark center. And as far as where it is up and down, you want to have it well enough above center that the weight is pulling down on the work of art. You may have to get your parents to help you with this part, because you'll need, unless you've got really strong fingers, you will need someone to help you with a pair of pliers to bend this thing. So let me show you how I'm bending it. Just going to bend it slightly. If you bend it too far, it'll break on you. Actually, I'm almost able to do it with my wimpy fingers. Now, you will want to use hot melt glue for this, because the school glue just won't be strong enough. So I'm going to I've got this bent about that much. It's about 30 degrees. Put a pretty big wad of glue on here. And then the flat part of it, smear that around. Make sure you don't burn yourself. Remember my trick of lick your finger and then touch whatever it is, and there's less chance you'll get burned. You can use a tool to kind of push that down into that hot glue. Then put another piece kind of ziggy-zaggy over the top of it just to secure it some more. There we go. Well, that's a big wad of glue. As soon as that cools, then this will be ready to hang up in your house. I think it's almost cool right now. You can hang this up in your house, and every time you look at it, you can remember that Jesus died for your sins and for mine. Remember to praise God, stay inspired, and keep making art.